Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. We're back again with the artistry of life. Today there's this topic that has been on my mind, and just like everything we do, we'll practice it, we'll live it, and then we'll talk about it, right?
Yeah.
And one of them is, what is unconditional love?
Right. So that is a very, very interesting topic. But I think before we get into the unconditional part of love, I think it's good for us to describe or give a basic understanding of when we say love, what are we talking about specifically?
Okay.
Right. So I think, if you asked 10 people, 20 people, 100 people to give their definition of love, chances are you're going to get some similarities amongst, let's just say, 10 people, but they're going to be distinctly different based on that individual's personal perspective on what they've probably previously been exposed to, or I would like to believe in the manner in which they were loved.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I found that many of us, or many people that I've encountered, including myself, when I went into the world and I encountered other human beings in the world, the manner in which I expressed my love was largely based on the working definition that I had, which was rooted in the manner in which I was loved. Right. For example, growing up in a two-parent household, my mother was very expressive in the manner in which she showed her affection towards her children.
Yes.
My father was not. So I always knew these are my parents. So yes, they love me, but the expression of the way they displayed their affections, emotions, or even just the way they interacted with me was diametrically different.
Yes.
So using that as a baseline, when I went into the world, when it came to the opposite sex, I kind of took a familiar pattern, which I later on grew to realize, a pattern that was fashioned off of the way I saw my father express his emotions, right, and his affections, namely towards my mom, and then towards his children.
Yes.
So the way that I interacted with women and the opposite sex was, I found, was pretty much identical to that. And how, so how did I make that determination?
Yes.
My mother told me, right? She just said, you act just like your dad,
Yes.
Mind you, we don't look alike physically. We don't share a lot of different characteristics, right? And if anything, my characteristics and my character is largely fashioned after my mom. So for her to tell me that at the time, that the way I, interacted with the opposite sex and women and was just in the same manner as he did, I found that, like, it was very interesting to me at the time. Like, wow, here I am. I thought I was, I was doing something, right?
Yeah.
And so if you took that and compared that to the way that I even interacted with my male friends, at that time, I would interact with them, yeah, that's my boy, that's my, best friend, whatever. But there was a degree of separation. Later on, I can reflect back and see, okay, well, I looked at how did the model that I grew up in and under, how did they express themselves when it came towards men? So, like, it was taboo. Like, man, don't hug me. Man, put your arm around me. Don't get close to me. Like, we could fist bump or head nod from a distance. So I was like, yeah, that's my boy, But would my lips ever form the word to say, I love you, to someone that's, that I consider my boy, my best friend and whatnot?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Never. Like, that would never would I have ever said that back in the day, right? Like
Yes,
years
yes.
ago. So I'm just using myself as the example. To the working definition that I had of love was largely based up under and from the model that I grew up seeing, and that was taught to me when I initially entered the world. What about yourself?
I mean, it's pretty much not the same, but it's quite different, right? Because, I mean, you're right. Like the model of love is based on what we see and express, from one of the conversations I told you about, like back in Nigeria, like expressing love is material stuff, right? Like when I
Right.
was young, when I'm doing good at school, like when I get good grades and everything, one thing my dad does is buy me like good clothes.
Oh.
Yeah, I had a bicycle and whenever we're in session for school, they take out the tires, like so that I concentrate on studying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I do good, my grades and everything, they replace the tires for me. And then when I was young, I used to love riding bicycles. So for me, that was like, oh, okay, expression of love, right?
Uh,
Like you said. And, even in Nigeria, then it was even different, like, to my homeboys and everything. I mean, we were like more affectionate, like, sure, hey, I hug you, this is my bro and everything.
oh.
But for me, I say as I grew older, right, the definition of love started to change. And I say sometimes it was affected by the culture or the place I was surrounded by,
Right.
because when I moved to this place, it was a whole cultural shock for me.
Mm.
Where, I tried to do the same thing, like, hey, what's up, bro? How you doing? I like, yo, back off, right?
Right.
I'm
Right.
like, okay. So that's not the way to express love. All right, what other way? But for me, yeah. So using the environment and everything, that was where I was able to model love, growing up. And until then we started to like, wait a minute, this is not the way, to do it.
Yes.
And just finding a new, different way of actually what love is,
Mm. Yeah. So that's very interesting to hear that perspective because yeah, mine definitely is opposite.
Make sure to subscribe and like our podcast. All right.